Confidence doesn't die overnight. It fades every time you let something slide that should have been faced. If your confidence feels low right now, there's a reason. It's not bad luck. It's not just stress. It's because something you're doing or allowing is slowly breaking you down from the inside. And the truth is, you already know what it is. Maybe it's the way you talk to yourself. Maybe it's how often you hold back. Maybe it's the people you keep around. Whatever it is, it's real. And if you don't deal with it, it'll keep stealing your voice, your strength, and your ability to move forward. This is killing your confidence, quietly, daily, repeatedly, and it needs to stop. In this video, we're not here to make you feel good for a moment. We're here to help you change. We're going to talk about the patterns that rob people of their belief in themselves. I'll walk you through them one by one. Clear, straight, real, no fluff. If you want to start living bold again, if you want to walk back into your life with power, you need to know what's killing your confidence and how to stop it for good. Let's get to work. Number 1, stop apologizing for being yourself all the time. You have to stop apologizing for being yourself all the time. That right there, it's killing your confidence. Every time you shrink yourself to make someone else feel comfortable, you lose a little more belief in who you are. You train your mind to think you're a problem. You convince yourself that you should change your words, your tone, your interests, or your opinions just to keep someone else from judging you. But what you're really doing is teaching yourself that you're not enough. And when you keep doing that over and over again, don't be surprised when your confidence disappears completely. People do this all the time without even realizing it. They say sorry when they're not wrong. They downplay their success because they don't want others to feel insecure. They silence their voice just to avoid confrontation. They dress a certain way, talk a certain way, and live a certain way because they don't want to be seen as too much. But here's the truth. If you have to keep apologizing just for being real, you are not in the right room. If you have to hide what makes you unique to be accepted, that's not acceptance. That's self-betrayal. Confidence doesn't come from pretending. It comes from alignment, from being who you are without guilt, without needing approval, without changing every part of yourself just to be tolerated. You're not on this earth to fit into everybody's standards. You're not here to water yourself down so that people who aren't growing can handle being around you. You are here to develop, to express, and to live with truth. And that starts when you stop saying sorry for existing the way you were built. When you say sorry for things that don't require an apology, you slowly chip away at your strength. Someone interrupts you, and you say sorry. Someone disrespects you, and you say sorry. You don't have the answer to something, and instead of saying, "I'll find out," you say, "Sorry, I'm dumb." You make a decision for yourself, and then you explain yourself for the next hour because you're scared of what they'll think. Do you realize how damaging that is? You're telling yourself that you need permission to be who you are. And that is the exact reason why your confidence never grows. It's being suffocated by fear, shame, and self-doubt. The most confident people you know didn't get there by being liked by everyone. They got there by drawing a line. They made peace with the fact that not everyone would understand them, and they moved forward anyway. Confidence is not loud. It's not arrogance. It's not pretending you know everything. Confidence is calm. It's solid. It's when you no longer seek validation for things you already know are right for you. And that starts when you stop being sorry for your truth. If you're quiet, be quiet. Don't apologize for not being loud. If you're intense, be intense. Don't tone it down for people who can't handle depth. If you have strong values, hold them. Don't loosen them just to blend in with people who lost theirs. Stop trying to be everything for everyone. You're not meant to meet every expectation. You're meant to live honestly. And the moment you stop apologizing for your voice, your personality, your boundaries, your story, your journey, that's the moment confidence walks back in. You've got to understand this. People will judge you no matter what. You play small, they'll say you're weak. You play big, they'll say you're arrogant. You speak up, they'll call you opinionated. You stay quiet, they'll call you passive. You can't win with people who are insecure. So stop playing their game. Start building your own. Confidence doesn't come from pleasing people. It comes from respecting yourself, even when others don't. So ask yourself this: when did you start believing that you needed to apologize for who you are? Was it a moment? Was it a comment someone made? Was it a relationship that made you feel like you had to earn love by changing? Whatever it was, you've got to break that story. Because if you don't, you'll keep living in a mental cage that you were never supposed to be in. You'll keep walking through life, second-guessing everything, holding back your ideas, your feelings, and your dreams, all because someone once made you feel like being you was wrong. Confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Every time you tell the truth, even when your voice shakes, that's confidence. Every time you say no when it would have been easier to say yes, that's confidence. Every time you stop apologizing for things that don't require guilt, that's confidence. And it grows, day by day, action by action, decision by decision. The truth is, you don't owe anyone an apology for having standards. You don't owe them an apology for growing. You don't owe an apology for having boundaries. You don't owe it for taking care of yourself. You don't owe it for walking away from disrespect. You don't owe it for changing your life. You owe it to yourself to be honest. You owe it to yourself to be bold. You owe it to yourself to stop saying sorry for every little thing that makes you feel like less. You can't build self-respect and self-rejection at the same time. You've got to choose. If you want to feel stronger, then you need to start treating yourself like someone who deserves to be here. Because you do. You belong. Your opinions matter. Your energy is valuable. And the world doesn't need a watered-down version of you. It needs the real thing. But that real version can't show up if you're constantly apologizing for it. There's a difference between being polite and being afraid. You can be respectful and still be firm. You can be kind without being small. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up with all your flaws and still saying, I'm worthy. It's about learning to take space instead of asking for it. It's about unlearning the belief that you have to explain yourself to everyone you meet. You don't. So from now on, start paying attention to your words. The next time you say sorry, ask yourself if it's really needed or if it's just your fear talking. You'll be shocked at how often you apologize for simply being human. Take your voice back. Take your presence back. Be clear, be real, be strong. Don't soften your truth just to fit into spaces that don't respect it. If they don't accept you at full strength, they're not your people. And when you stop apologizing for being yourself, your life begins to change. You'll walk different, talk different, think different, because you'll finally understand that being you is not a mistake. It's your greatest asset. And the moment you stop hiding it, your confidence will finally have room to grow. So don't wait. Start now. Stand in who you are. Own it, live it, and never again feel the need to apologize for it. Because the second you do, that's the second you start taking your power back. Number 2, speak your mind even if your voice shakes. That's the moment you start building real strength. Not the strength people see in your appearance, but the strength that comes from finally standing up for what you truly think and feel. Most people spend their entire lives biting their tongue, holding back, walking away from moments that could have set them free. And they do it because they're scared. Scared of being judged, scared of being misunderstood, scared of making someone uncomfortable. But what they don't realize is, every time you silence yourself, you teach your brain that your thoughts don't matter. And if you repeat that long enough, it becomes your reality. You start to hesitate even in simple conversations. You become unsure of yourself. You question every opinion you have. You second guess your words even before you say them. That's not confidence, that's survival mode. And the longer you live like that, the harder it becomes to speak up when it really counts. You can't keep living in fear of how people will react. Because the truth is, there will always be someone who disagrees with you. There will always be someone who doesn't like your opinion. That's life. But if you keep quiet just to stay safe, you'll also stay stuck. And deep down, you'll feel it. That quiet frustration, that heavy tension in your chest, that regret that builds when you walk away knowing you had something to say, but didn't say it. That's not who you're meant to be. You're not weak because your voice shakes. You're human. Courage doesn't mean you feel no fear. It means you act anyway, even when your heart is racing and your stomach feels tight. It means you push through the pressure in your throat and say the thing that matters to you. And when you do, you give yourself permission to grow. That moment might feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is what separates growth from regret. You can live with discomfort, you can learn from it, but regret, that stays with you, that will eat at you. People who never speak their truth end up bitter. They carry resentment because they've spent years shrinking themselves to avoid conflict. They agree with things they don't believe in. They nod to opinions that go against their values. They laugh when something offends them, all to avoid standing out, all to avoid being different. But what good is fitting in if it means abandoning who you are? Every time you speak your mind, even if your words don't come out perfect, you train yourself to be strong. You show your mind that it's safe to be honest. You build internal trust. And that trust matters more than what anyone else thinks of you. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You don't even need them to understand. You need to trust yourself enough to say what needs to be said. And you don't have to be aggressive to do it. You can speak with respect. You can speak with calm, but you still have to speak. Your silence doesn't protect you. It only hides you. And over time, hiding becomes a habit. You stop sharing your opinions in meetings. You avoid difficult conversations in relationships. You say yes when you mean no. And the worst part? You start convincing yourself that this is just who you are. But deep down, you know it's not. You've just been quiet for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to express your truth. Confidence grows through expression. It's built in the moments where you risk being uncomfortable to be real. The more you do it, the stronger you become. You stop waiting for the perfect words. You stop rehearsing everything in your head. You speak and trust that what you're saying matters. Because it does. Your perspective matters. Your thoughts matter. Your voice matters. Not because it's always right, but because it's always yours. And if you don't speak for yourself, who will? Stop thinking you need permission to talk. You don't need a certain tone. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. You just need to be present and be honest. That's what people respect. That's what people remember. The ones who say what they really mean, not the ones who stay quiet to fit in. And don't confuse speaking up with being reckless. This isn't about being rude or trying to dominate a room. It's about having the self-respect to express what you stand for, even if your voice shakes. Especially when your voice shakes. Because that's how you know it's real. That tremble, that nervous energy, that's your body waking up. That's you stepping into a moment that matters. Think about how many times you've walked away from a conversation thinking, I should have said something. That thought doesn't go away. It sticks. It teaches you to doubt yourself the next time. But when you do speak, even if it doesn't come out perfectly, you build something deeper than confidence. You build courage. And courage is what allows you to show up again and again, no matter how shaky you felt the last time. You don't get better at speaking your mind by staying silent. You get better by doing it again and again. And over time, your voice will shake less. Your words will come faster. Your nerves will settle. But that only happens if you start today in small ways. Speak up in a meeting. Speak up in a conversation where your opinion matters. Speak up when someone crosses a line. Speak up when something feels wrong. And do it before you talk yourself out of it. Nobody can build your voice for you. That's your job. It starts with one moment, one decision, one sentence. Even if your chest feels tight and your hands are sweating, say it. Say what you believe. Say what you think. Say what matters to you. Not to impress others, not to argue, but to stop betraying yourself. Because the more you betray your voice, the further you drift from who you are. And you can't feel confident in a life where you're always pretending. You can't feel strong in a life where you stay silent to keep the peace. Real peace comes from being aligned. Real strength comes from honesty. And real growth comes from the moments you say what needs to be said, whether your voice shakes or not. So if your voice is shaking, good, that means you're alive. That means you're doing something you haven't done before. That means you're pushing against your limits. And that is how confidence is born. Not from being perfect, but from being real. Start now. Say it. Speak your truth. And no matter how it sounds, stand by it. Because the second you do, you begin to build a version of yourself that doesn't hide anymore. You begin to create a life where your voice isn't something you silence. It's something you stand on. That's what changes everything. Number 3, start doing things that scare you on purpose. That's how you stretch your limits and grow into someone stronger. Most people wait until they feel brave enough to act, but that day never really comes. Because courage isn't something that just shows up one morning and taps you on the shoulder. You build it by doing the thing you're afraid of while you're still uncomfortable. You have to move toward the fear, not around it. Because everything you want, confidence, strength, self-respect, it's all on the other side of that fear. And you don't get there by thinking. You get there by acting. You know what scares you? It's not a mystery. It's that phone call you've been avoiding. That conversation you've been pushing away. That new opportunity you talk about but never start. You can feel it in your body. The hesitation, the tightness in your chest, the overthinking. That's the fear trying to hold you back. And every time you listen to it, it wins. Every time you let fear decide for you, it takes a little piece of your self-belief. Until eventually you start seeing yourself as someone who just avoids hard things. And that's where confidence dies. Because confidence isn't built in your comfort zone. It's built when you take control in uncomfortable moments. When you choose to lean into challenge instead of backing down. When you stop letting fear be your guide and start leading yourself. That's when you begin to trust yourself. That's when your self-image shifts from, I can't handle it, to I can face anything. You don't become that person by accident. You build it through action. And yes, you're going to feel nervous. You might fail. You might feel awkward. But none of that is a reason to stop. Fear is not a signal to retreat. It's a sign you're right on the edge of something important. Most people try to eliminate fear, but that's not how this works. You don't wait until it's gone. You do it anyway. You step into it again and again until it loses power over you. That's how you get stronger. Think about all the things you've avoided because you felt scared. How many chances have passed you by? How many people have moved forward while you stood still, talking yourself out of it? That's not a judgment. It's a wake-up call. Because if you don't start doing things that scare you now, you'll still be avoiding them 10 years from now, and you'll carry the weight of everything you could have done but didn't. Doing the scary thing on purpose is not reckless. It's deliberate. It's how you break the cycle of hesitation and regret. It's how you stop living on autopilot and start driving your life forward. You take on discomfort not because it's easy, but because you're tired of playing it safe. Safe doesn't give you growth. Safe keeps you average. And you weren't built for average. You have to practice walking into fear like it's a part of the plan. Not something to escape, but something to face. Take the job interview you feel underqualified for. Go to the event where you know no one. Start the project even if you're scared of failing. Send the message. Ask the question. Try the thing you keep telling yourself you'll do someday. Because someday turns into never, if you keep waiting to feel ready. Start small if you need to. It doesn't have to be some huge leap, but it has to be something real. Something that makes your stomach turn a little. Something that forces you to stretch beyond what's familiar. Because that stretch, that tension, that's where your future lives. That's where your best self is hiding. And the only way to meet that version of you is to go through the uncomfortable moments that scare you now. You're not weak because you're afraid. You're human. But you stay weak when you let fear run your decisions. The people who are the most confident aren't fearless. They're trained. Trained through repetition. Trained by experience. Trained by choosing action over avoidance. Again and again. And they're not special. They just decided to stop living in fear of fear. That's a decision you can make too. You can decide that from now on, when something scares you, you run toward it, not away from it. You can decide that fear doesn't get the final say, that your life is too important to waste on hesitation. Because every time you choose the hard thing, your mindset shifts, your energy changes, you stop shrinking, you stop doubting, you start becoming who you were meant to be. People waste years being scared of failure, but the real failure is staying stuck. The real failure is spending your life avoiding moments that could have made you proud. What's worse, failing at something you tried or never knowing who you could have been. Regret doesn't come from doing too much, it comes from holding back. So what scares you right now, be honest, write it down, say it out loud. Then go do something about it. Don't wait for a perfect plan. Don't wait for someone to push you. Push yourself, even if it's messy, even if you're nervous, even if your hands shake while you do it. That's part of it. That's what makes it meaningful. You'll start to notice something once you do. The thing you were scared of, it's usually not as bad as you imagined. The fear was louder than the actual experience, and that realization builds a new kind of power. A power that says, if I got through that, I can get through more. And that's when your confidence really starts to grow. Not from fake motivation, but from proof. Proof that you can show up, even when it's hard, and it compounds. One bold decision leads to another. One hard conversation gives you the courage for the next one. One scary step turns into momentum. And before you know it, fear doesn't hold you like it used to. You move faster. You think clearer. You believe in yourself more. Not because everything is easy, but because you've trained yourself to face what most people avoid. That's the path. It's not complicated. It's just uncomfortable. But that discomfort is the price of growth. And the payoff? It's the kind of confidence no one can give you and no one can take away. So stop sitting in fear. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start doing the things that scare you on purpose. Take the first step before you feel ready. Show your fear that you're not running from it anymore. Show yourself what you're made of, not in theory, but in practice. You've got what it takes, but you'll never know until you move. So move now. Start where you are, and don't stop, especially when it scares you, because that's where your life begins to change. Number 4, get uncomfortable telling people what you really want. That discomfort is necessary. If you ever want to be fully understood and fully respected. Most people don't struggle because they don't have goals. They struggle because they've never been honest about them. They hold back their real desires to keep things smooth, to avoid judgment, or to prevent conflict. But every time you stay quiet about what truly matters to you, you trade your future for someone else's comfort. And over time, you begin to feel lost, not because you don't have direction, but because you've never clearly spoken it into your life. Saying what you want isn't easy. It exposes you. It opens you up to rejection, to misunderstanding, to pushback. That's why most people don't do it. They soften their words, they talk in circles, or they act like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. Because if you're not willing to say what you really want, you'll end up living a life full of what you don't. It's not about being loud or demanding. It's about being clear. It's about deciding that your life matters enough to speak for it, even if your voice shakes, even if the room goes quiet, even if they don't get it. This discomfort is part of growth. It's what helps you separate who's really in your corner and who just benefits from your silence. When you speak up, you learn quickly who values you for who you are, not just who you pretend to be. And yes, it might change some relationships. Some people might pull away. Some might criticize you. That's okay. The goal isn't to be liked by everyone. The goal is to be aligned with your truth, because nothing destroys confidence faster than hiding your real wants day after day just to avoid a difficult moment. You want more in life? Then start saying it. Stop using vague words. Stop hoping people will guess what you mean. Stop playing it safe to protect other people's opinions. Speak clearly. Speak with conviction. Not because you're trying to convince anyone else, but because you're training yourself to stand firm in what matters. You deserve to live a life that reflects your real goals, not just the ones that feel acceptable. It could be anything. Maybe you want a different career. Maybe you want more respect in your relationship. Maybe you want space to work on yourself. Whatever it is, say it. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect mood or the right timing. That moment you're avoiding, it's the one that could unlock everything. But you'll never know if you keep choosing silence over honesty. One reason people avoid saying what they want is fear of judgment. You think if you speak your dreams, someone will laugh. Or if you ask for more, they'll think you're ungrateful. That fear is real, but it's not a reason to stop. Because here's the truth. The people who judge your dreams were never going to support them anyway. Their reaction says more about them than it does about you. You're not responsible for how they feel about your goals. You're responsible for being real with yourself. And real growth begins when you get uncomfortable on purpose, when you stop editing yourself to keep others happy, when you finally tell the truth about what you want, even if it changes everything. That kind of honesty is rare, but it's powerful. It breaks you out of patterns. It stops the quiet frustration you've been carrying. It gives you the chance to build something that actually fits you, but only if you're willing to deal with the tension it creates. Because there will be tension. People will question you. They'll ask why you're changing. They'll act like you're being difficult. That's normal. Don't shrink back when it happens. Stay grounded. Speak simply. And remember, the people who truly care will want to understand. They might not agree. They might be surprised, but they won't punish you for having your own direction. And if they do, it means they were never really there to support you anyway. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for what's right for you. And if that makes others uncomfortable, it's not your job to fix their feelings. Your job is to honor your path, to stop settling, to stop hoping that being quiet will get you what you want, because it won't. No one can read your mind. If you don't say it, don't expect to receive it. Think about how many years people waste walking through life with hidden dreams. They sit in jobs they hate, in relationships that drain them, in habits that don't serve them, all because they're scared to speak up. That's not how you build a fulfilling life. You build it by choosing honesty over comfort. One conversation at a time, one decision at a time, one clear sentence at a time. Start small if you need to. Practice in the mirror, write it down, say it out loud before the real moment comes. But get used to the discomfort, because that's what growth feels like. You don't level up by hiding. You level up by showing up with truth. And once you get through that awkward moment, once you say what you've been holding back, you'll feel something shift. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel stronger. And you'll realize it wasn't as scary as you thought. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to ask for better. You're allowed to grow out of places that no longer fit. But none of that happens if you keep pretending. If you keep smiling when you want to scream. If you keep saying it's fine when it's not. That's not strength. That's survival. And you weren't meant to survive your life. You were meant to live it. So take the risk. Say what you mean. Be direct. If they don't like it, you'll survive. If they don't agree, you'll adapt. But you'll walk away knowing you were real. And that's worth everything. Because when you speak your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, you stop waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself. You stop hoping someone will understand. You make yourself clear, and you stop living someone else's version of your life. That's the shift. That's when confidence grows. Not from praise, not from approval, from truth. From real, direct, honest truth. That's what creates freedom. That's what creates clarity. And that's what gives you your power back. So from today, stop avoiding the conversation. Say what you want. Ask for what matters. Get uncomfortable on purpose. And build a life that reflects who you are, not who you're pretending to be. Number 5. Look people in the eye and say your truth. That's not just about confidence, it's about self-respect. When you avoid eye contact, when you lower your voice, when you twist your words just to avoid discomfort, what you're really doing is telling yourself, my truth doesn't matter. And the moment you start believing that, you begin to lose a sense of who you are. You start shrinking, second-guessing, hiding, and hoping people will understand you without you ever clearly saying what needs to be said. That never works. Clarity demands courage, and courage means showing up fully, speaking clearly, and owning your truth without looking away. There's power in looking someone in the eye. You're not hiding, you're not running, you're not apologizing for your thoughts. You're standing in your words, your values, your decisions, and that kind of presence changes how people see you. More importantly, it changes how you see yourself. You stop feeling small. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop letting other people talk over your thoughts like they're disposable. Because now you're not just speaking, you're connecting. You're taking responsibility for your words. That's where real self-trust begins. Most people don't avoid eye contact because they're rude. They avoid it because they're afraid. Afraid of being challenged. Afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid they'll say the wrong thing. So they look away, rush through their words, or say what sounds acceptable instead of what's real. But avoiding truth never makes things better. It builds frustration. It builds distance. It builds a version of your life that doesn't actually fit you. You don't need to be aggressive to be honest. You need to be grounded. And you need to stop editing yourself to make others comfortable with lies you don't believe. You've been through enough in your life to have your own viewpoint. Your experiences, your struggles, your work, your thoughts, they count. So when it's time to say something, don't dodge it. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't hide it behind soft language, hoping they'll just get the message. Say it. Look them in the eye and say it. This is where I stand. This is what I believe. This is what matters to me. That kind of presence is rare, but it's respected. Not because it's loud, but because it's real. People can feel it when you're not being true to yourself. You might think you're keeping the peace by avoiding the hard truth, but what you're really doing is building quiet resentment. You're keeping your emotions inside, and it starts to weigh on you. You walk away from conversations feeling disappointed, like you left something behind. That's not the kind of life you want to live. You want to walk away from moments feeling whole, not like you betrayed your own voice to avoid a 5-second pause in a conversation. Sometimes your truth will surprise people. Sometimes it won't match their expectations. But that's not your problem to solve. You're not here to live up to someone else's idea of who you should be. You're here to live as you, fully, truthfully. And yes, that means saying things that others might not agree with. But better to be misunderstood while being honest than to be liked for being something you're not. The more you practice saying your truth with steady eyes, the stronger you become. It starts small. You don't have to give a speech. You just need to be direct. Speak with calm. Say what you mean. Not to argue, not to dominate, but to express, to be clear, to stop holding everything in and hoping someone else will bring it up because they won't. It's your job to say what needs to be said. And if your hands shake or your heart races, that's okay. That's not weakness. That's movement. That's you stepping into something real. Real strength doesn't come from shouting. It comes from stability, from looking someone in the eye and telling the truth without flinching. That's when people start to listen. That's when they realize you're not just talking, you're standing for something. And whether they agree or not, they'll respect it. And if they don't, you'll still walk away with your dignity. That's more valuable than being liked by everyone for saying nothing of importance. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. But when it's time to speak, speak. When it's time to correct something, correct it. When it's time to stand up for yourself, do it without looking down. That moment where you want to retreat, where you feel the urge to avoid conflict, that's the exact moment you need to step forward. That's how you break the pattern. That's how you take your power back. Your truth isn't just for others to hear, it's for you to live by. And when you say it out loud, it becomes real. It becomes solid. You start building a life that reflects who you are instead of who you think others want you to be. And that life, that clear, grounded, honest life, is what gives you peace. You no longer carry the stress of pretending. You no longer live in fear of being exposed, because there's nothing to expose. You already said it. You already showed up. And that freedom is what real confidence feels like. People respect the ones who don't flinch under pressure, who don't back down just to avoid awkwardness, who stay steady even when the room gets quiet. That can be you. But it starts with looking them in the eye and saying what you believe, without apology, without excuse, without waiting for someone else to go first. So don't hide anymore. Don't let your truth stay stuck in your throat. Speak with clarity. Speak with honesty. Speak from the strength of knowing that your voice matters, even if it's not popular, even if it makes things tense. You weren't built to be invisible. You were built to be heard. And the only way people will ever hear the real you is if you have the courage to say it, face to face, eye to eye, without backing down. That's where your confidence comes from. That's where your strength is built. And that's how you start becoming the version of yourself you've always needed to be. Number 6, call out the lie that you're not good enough. That belief is not the truth. It's a story your mind created after years of hearing things, seeing things, and feeling things that made you question your worth. Somewhere along the line, someone made you feel small. Someone made you doubt yourself. And over time, those moments stacked up. They weren't just words or experiences anymore. They became your identity. You started thinking less of yourself, not because it was true, but because you got used to carrying other people's opinions as if they were facts. But the truth is, you're not broken. You're not behind. You're not some unfinished person waiting for permission to be proud of who you are. You've been through enough to prove you're capable. You've survived things most people don't know about. You've held yourself together in moments where others would have given up. And yet you keep listening to that voice that tells you you're not enough. It's time to shut that voice down, not by yelling over it, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by calling it out and replacing it with something that's actually real. That voice that tells you you're not good enough doesn't speak the truth. It speaks fear. It speaks shame. It speaks from your past, not your potential. It was shaped by people who didn't see your value. It was reinforced by failures you didn't fully process. It grew stronger every time you stayed quiet when you should have stood up. But that voice doesn't define you. It doesn't know your full story, and it doesn't get to control your future unless you let it. You've got to break the pattern. Every time you tell yourself you're not good enough, stop and ask where that thought came from. Whose voice is that? Was it a parent who never believed in you? A teacher who embarrassed you? A friend who made fun of your goals? A relationship that made you feel like a burden? Track the source. Don't just accept the thought as your own. Most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's a replay of someone else's insecurities passed on to you. You've been carrying that burden long enough, and it's holding you back in ways you don't even see. It's in how you hesitate when it's your turn to speak. It's in how you downplay your success. It's in how you question your decisions before you make them. It's in the way you stay quiet when you should speak, settle when you should demand more, and back away when you should step forward. That's what the lie does. It makes you smaller than your truth, and that has to stop. You don't have to feel confident every moment. You just have to stop believing that your doubt is a sign of weakness. Doubt is normal, but living in it, trusting it more than your own growth, that's what damages your self-respect. And the way out isn't through hype. It's through proof. Proof to yourself that you're better than that voice says. That starts by acting in opposition to the lie. The lie says you can't, do it anyway. The lie says no one will care, show up anyway. The lie says you'll fail, try anyway. Action is how you prove the lie wrong, over and over until the voice loses power. You've got to recognize the moments when the lie shows up the loudest. It usually happens when you're about to grow, when you're about to take a risk, when you're stepping into something new. That voice gets loud because it's scared. It wants you to stay the same. It wants you to protect the version of yourself that feels unworthy. But you don't need protection. You need truth. You need to remember who you are underneath all the noise. Your value doesn't disappear just because you don't see it right now. It's there. It's always been there. You're the one who has to dig through the layers of doubt and find it again. That means changing the way you talk to yourself. Stop tearing yourself apart over things you haven't done yet. Start giving yourself credit for what you've already faced. You made it through things that felt impossible. You kept going when everything in you said stop. That counts for something. More than something. That counts for everything. Stop waiting to be perfect before you believe in yourself. That's not how this works. Confidence doesn't show up after the success. It shows up when you show up. When you move through fear. When you stand tall even when you don't have all the answers. That's what real belief looks like. Not arrogance, not pretending, but choosing to see your own value even when it's buried under mistakes, doubt, or pain. And stop comparing your life to everyone else's highlight reel. That's another trick the lie uses to keep you stuck. You see someone else's wins, and you immediately discount your progress. You convince yourself that you're behind, that you're not doing enough. But you're not behind. You're not failing. You're living your life facing your own challenges, growing at your own pace. No one else has your exact experience. So no one else's opinion should outweigh your own truth. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You don't need everyone's approval to move forward. What you need is to stop letting a false story run your life. The lie that you're not good enough is not based in reality. It's a mental habit, and like any habit, it can be broken. But you have to challenge it, consistently, aggressively, every single time it shows up. You were not born thinking you were less than. That belief was planted in you. It's not yours. It's not true. And it's not something you have to carry anymore. Start speaking to yourself with truth. Not blind positivity. Not empty motivation. Just truth. I am here. I have value. I've made mistakes, but I've also made progress. I'm learning. I'm trying. I'm growing. And that is more than enough. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to speak your truth. You are allowed to want more. And you are allowed to stop doubting yourself every time something gets difficult. Growth is not supposed to be comfortable, but that discomfort doesn't mean you're not good enough. It means you're getting stronger. So from this point on, don't let that voice define you. When it says you can't, prove it wrong with action. When it says you're not ready, remind yourself that you'll learn along the way. When it tells you to shrink, stand up straighter. And when it tries to convince you that you're not good enough, call it out for what it is, a lie, a tired, recycled, untrue story that has no place in your future, because you are enough, right now, as you are. And it's time to start living like it. Number 7, stand firm when people try to shrink you. Because if you don't, they will keep doing it. They'll do it in small ways, subtle ways, sometimes even with a smile on their face. They'll disguise it as advice, disguise it as care, but what they're really doing is keeping you small so they don't have to feel uncomfortable with your growth. And if you're not paying attention, you'll start to believe them. You'll begin to lower your voice, hide your goals, filter your ideas, and adjust your personality just to avoid tension. That's how people lose themselves, slowly, piece by piece, in moments where they stayed silent instead of standing strong. You know the feeling. You speak with passion and someone rolls their eyes. You try something new and they call it unrealistic. You express your goals and they laugh or change the subject. That doesn't always hurt because of what they say. It hurts because deep down a part of you starts wondering if they might be right. That's where the damage starts. The doubt creeps in. You start editing your words. You start holding back. You tell yourself, maybe I'm too much, or maybe I should tone it down. And before you know it, you've created a smaller version of yourself, just to avoid judgment. That has to stop. You weren't meant to fit into other people's comfort zones. You weren't built to play small just because someone else feels threatened when you speak with certainty. If you have to shrink to be accepted, then you're not being accepted at all. You're being tolerated, and there's a big difference. Tolerance asks you to keep quiet. Respect invites you to be real. You deserve respect, but you won't get it if you don't demand it through how you carry yourself. Standing firm doesn't mean being aggressive. It means being grounded. It means knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will not allow. It means making a decision that no one, no matter how close to you, gets to dictate your worth, your tone, your dreams, or your energy. The moment you let someone's opinion decide how much of yourself you show, you hand over your power. And you can't live a strong life when your power is constantly in someone else's hands. Some people will try to shrink you because your strength reminds them of what they've avoided. Your discipline shows them their excuses. Your honesty makes them uncomfortable with their lies. Your progress highlights their stagnation. So instead of doing the work to rise up, they try to pull you down. And if you're not prepared, you'll fall into the trap of playing nice. You'll shrink yourself to make them feel big. But shrinking yourself doesn't serve anyone, not them, and definitely not you. If someone feels uncomfortable because you're being yourself, that's not your burden to carry. If your confidence offends them, let it. If your clarity challenges them, good. That's not a reason to stop, that's a reason to keep going. People who respect you won't ask you to be smaller. They'll cheer for your growth. They'll want to see you expand, express, evolve. Anyone who tries to take that from you is not helping you, they're holding you back. Standing firm is a skill. It takes practice. It starts with knowing your values, knowing your limits, knowing your goals, and not bending those every time someone raises an eyebrow. It's saying no when something doesn't feel right. It's not laughing at jokes that go against your beliefs just to keep the peace. It's not agreeing with things that don't sit right with your spirit. Every time you choose yourself, you get stronger, and every time you shrink, you feel smaller, even if no one else sees it. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be respectful and still be clear. You don't owe anyone the smaller version of you. You don't need to explain why you're choosing a different path, why you want more, why you're speaking louder now. That's your right. You don't owe an apology for evolving. If someone can't handle who you're becoming, they were never meant to walk with you where you're going. Don't fear being too much. Fear being less than who you are. Fear looking back and realizing you spent years holding back your energy, your talent, your ideas, just to fit into places that never had room for your potential. Life is too short to live like that. You weren't put here to stay hidden. You were put here to stand tall, to speak with meaning, to live without apology. And yes, it might create distance with some people. Not everyone will understand the stronger version of you. Some will say you've changed. Some will call you selfish. Some will try to guilt you back into the box you fought to escape. But that's not your problem. Your job is not to make everyone comfortable with your growth. Your job is to grow anyway. You get one life, one chance to use your voice, one chance to build something that reflects your truth. Don't waste it making yourself small to protect people who wouldn't protect you the same way. Don't waste it seeking approval from people who only support you when you're quiet, easy, and agreeable. You don't need that. You need to be real. You need to be strong. You need to stand firm every time someone tries to push you back into a role that doesn't fit anymore. Confidence is not about volume. It's not about proving people wrong. It's about not needing them to agree with you in order for you to feel right. That's inner strength. And it comes from choosing yourself when it's hard. It comes from deciding that your truth, your values, your direction are worth protecting, even when it makes other people uncomfortable. So from now on, stop bending to fit. Stop playing small just to avoid confrontation. Start noticing when people are trying to shrink you, and stop letting them. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to be seen. You are allowed to change, and you are allowed to protect the person you're becoming from the people who benefit from the old version of you. You don't need permission to be strong. You just need the discipline to keep showing up as yourself, even when it's awkward, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's lonely. That's what separates people who lead their lives from people who follow fear. Stand firm when people try to shrink you. That's how you build a life you won't regret. One decision at a time, one honest moment at a time, one clear no or bold yes at a time. That's how you win your respect back. That's how you take your power back. And that's how you stay free. Number 8, fix your posture before it fixes your mindset. That's not just about how you carry your body. It's about how you carry your life. Your posture tells the world how you feel about yourself. Shoulders slouched, eyes down, slow movements. Those aren't just physical habits. They are signals. Signals that say you don't feel strong, you don't feel in control, and you don't want to be seen. And whether you realize it or not, your mind picks up those signals. When you move like you're tired of life, your mind starts acting like life's too heavy for you. When you walk like you're not confident, your brain starts believing you're not capable. And that's where the damage begins. Not in your thoughts, but in your behavior. Every single day, your body sends messages to your mind. You may think it's the other way around, that mindset comes first. But that's not always true. Sometimes the quickest way to shift your mental state is to shift your physical one. The way you sit, the way you walk, the way you stand in a room, it all shapes how you feel. If you constantly carry yourself like someone who wants to disappear, your mind will follow. You'll stop speaking up. You'll stop trying new things. You'll stop aiming higher because your body already told your mind that you're not ready for any of that. It's subtle, but your confidence starts fading when your head is always down, when your shoulders roll forward, when your steps are slow and hesitant, when your voice gets quieter, not because you don't have anything to say, but because you've trained your whole being to stay small. That's how posture begins to shape identity. And if you're not careful, you start building a personality around it. A personality of avoidance, of fear, of self-doubt. And the longer you live like that, the harder it becomes to break the habit. But here's the truth. Posture can be retrained. It's not just for appearance, it's a form of discipline. It's how you remind yourself who you are and what you're capable of without saying a word. When you fix your posture, you're telling your mind that you're still in control, that you're alert, that you're focused, that you're not going to walk through life hiding anymore. And the more often you carry yourself with intention, the more your mind starts to adapt. You'll begin to think differently. You'll speak more clearly. You'll respond to challenges with presence instead of fear. This doesn't require hours of training. It requires awareness. The next time you walk into a room, lift your chin, pull your shoulders back, plant your feet, breathe deeply, move like someone who has direction. Not because you're faking confidence, but because you're giving your brain a new reference point. Every time you adjust your posture, you're interrupting the signal that says I'm not enough, and replacing it with I'm here and I'm ready. People will notice. They'll respond differently to you. Not because you've changed your words, but because your energy is different. You're no longer shrinking. You're no longer moving like someone who doubts their own value. You're showing up. And showing up physically leads to showing up mentally. The connection is real. There's science behind it. But you don't need science to tell you what you already feel. You know what it's like to walk into a situation with bad posture. It changes everything. You second guess. You withdraw. You hesitate. That's not because you lack ability. It's because your body is sending the wrong message. Start correcting that. Start holding yourself accountable for how you carry yourself. You may not be able to control every thought right now, but you can control your posture. And when you control that, you start creating the conditions for a stronger mind. You're reminding yourself that no matter what's happening around you, you will not fold. You will not collapse. You will not make yourself smaller just because life is hard. You will hold yourself steady because you've decided to live like someone who has purpose. There's a reason military training focuses so heavily on posture. There's a reason athletes work on body control. It's because posture isn't just about performance, it's about identity. When you walk with focus and strength, you start thinking like a focused and strong person. Your body and mind are always in conversation. If one speaks weakness long enough, the other will start to agree. But if one starts showing strength, even when it's hard, the other begins to rise too. This doesn't mean you'll always feel powerful. It doesn't mean your confidence will be perfect. It means you're choosing to stop letting fear and doubt be the default setting. You're choosing to live in a way that supports growth. You're using your posture as a tool, not just to look better, but to think better, move better, and feel more prepared to face what's in front of you. Some people will say it doesn't matter, that it's just physical. But those same people walk through life feeling stuck, never realizing how much their body language is dragging their mindset down. Don't make that mistake. Be deliberate. Pay attention to how you sit when you're working, how you stand when you're in a conversation, how you walk into rooms. Fix your posture, not to impress anyone, but to keep your mind sharp, to stay in command of your energy, to remind yourself every single day that you are not here to shrink. There's a quiet power in presence, in stillness, in how you enter a space without rushing, without slouching, without looking unsure. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. It just means you're not running from yourself anymore. That's what people feel when they meet someone who's grounded, someone who's done the inner work to hold their body like they belong. That can be you. It's a choice, a decision, and it starts with the next step you take. So if your confidence is low, don't just focus on motivation. Focus on movement. Focus on how you physically exist in the world. Shift your body, and your thoughts will follow. Straighten your spine. Take up space. Breathe like you deserve to be here, because you do. This isn't about pretending. It's about returning to the posture of someone who's alive, who's paying attention, who's decided to lead themselves even when things aren't perfect. You're not powerless. You're not broken. You're not invisible. But if you keep moving like you are, your mind will start believing it. That's why this matters. Not for others. For you. Fix your posture before it fixes your mindset into something weaker than who you are. Walk like you remember what you're capable of. Sit like your ideas matter. Move like you respect yourself. And let that version of you lead the way forward every day without apology. Number 9, challenge every thought that makes you feel less. Because if you don't, those thoughts will run your life. They won't scream at you. They'll whisper. They'll show up when you make a mistake, when someone else succeeds, when you try something new. They'll say you're not smart enough, not ready, not worthy. And if you don't question them, you'll start believing them. Not because they're true, but because they've been repeated so many times that they feel true. But feelings aren't facts. And you don't grow by accepting every thought that crosses your mind. You grow by questioning the ones that shrink you. Your mind is not your enemy, but it will mirror whatever you've taught it. If you've spent years feeding it doubt, fear, and insecurity, that's what it will return to you. That's why you can't just sit back and let your thoughts go unchecked. You have to treat your mind like a garden. If you let weeds grow, they'll take over. So you don't ignore the negative thoughts. You confront them. You challenge them. You ask where they came from, and you ask if they deserve to stay. Most people walk around assuming every negative thought must be real. They don't even pause to ask why they believe it. But the truth is, most of those thoughts were planted by someone else. Maybe it was a parent who criticized everything you did. Maybe it was a teacher who dismissed you. Maybe it was a friend who made you feel replaceable. Somewhere along the way, those words turned into beliefs, and now they live in your mind as if they belong there. But just because something was said to you doesn't mean it defines you. Just because you think something doesn't mean it's accurate. The most powerful thing you can do for your confidence is to become aware of your self-talk. Watch how you speak to yourself when you're tired, when you mess up, when you feel behind. Do you speak with compassion or do you attack yourself? Do you push yourself forward or do you tear yourself down? That internal voice is shaping how you show up in life. And if that voice constantly tells you you're not enough, then you've got work to do, not just outside, but inside. Start paying attention. When a thought shows up that makes you feel small, ask yourself, is this based on facts or fear? Is this voice mine, or did I inherit it? What evidence do I have to support it? You'll often find that the thought has no foundation. It's just noise, and you've been following it without realizing it. That's why awareness matters. You can't change a thought you haven't even noticed, but once you notice it, you have power. You can replace it with something real. This isn't about lying to yourself. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about balance. If your mind keeps highlighting your flaws, you need to speak up and highlight your strengths. If your brain keeps playing worst-case scenarios, you need to remind it of everything you've already overcome. You can't let one side of the story dominate the whole narrative. You've got to bring in truth. And sometimes truth sounds like, I'm still learning, and that's okay. Or I failed, but that doesn't make me a failure. Or just because I feel unsure doesn't mean I don't belong. Every thought is a choice. You might not choose the first one that appears, but you get to choose whether to accept it. That's where your power lives, in the response. When a thought says, you'll never be good enough, respond with, I've gotten better before and I'll do it again. When a thought says you always mess things up, respond with, that's not true, I've grown and improved more times than I can count. This isn't about arguing with yourself all day. It's about not letting the first negative thought win without a fight. Confidence doesn't come from never thinking negatively. It comes from not bowing to the thoughts that try to shrink you. It comes from showing up anyway, from proving your doubt wrong through action. Because over time, if you keep challenging the old thoughts and replacing them with new ones, your brain starts to rewire. The negative thoughts get weaker, the empowering ones get louder, and the identity you build starts to match the truth, not the fear. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker, the observer, the one who decides what stays and what goes. So take that role seriously. Don't just absorb everything your mind throws at you. Push back. Be firm. Say, that's not true about me anymore. Say, that thought helped me survive before, but I don't need it now. Say, I'm not going to keep living under beliefs that were built in someone else's fear. This takes practice. You won't get it perfect overnight. Some thoughts will feel more convincing than others. Some days you'll believe the lie more than the truth. But that's okay. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be aware. You're here to stay conscious. You're here to lead your mind instead of being led by it. And that happens one thought at a time. The more you do this, the more you create a foundation of confidence that doesn't shake every time something goes wrong. You'll start catching yourself quicker. You'll recover faster. You'll walk into rooms with a clearer head and a stronger voice. And it won't be because life got easier. It'll be because you stopped letting every insecure thought control your direction. You're going to have doubts. That's human. But doubt is not a stop sign. It's a signal. It's a cue to lean in, to question, to grow. So use it. Let every thought that makes you feel less become a trigger to rise, not shrink. Let it push you into truth, not retreat. And never again let a voice in your head rob you of the strength that's always been there. You've come too far to live under old beliefs. You've done too much work to be pulled back by recycled doubts. So from now on, make it your mission to challenge every thought that makes you feel small. Not one of them gets a free pass. If it doesn't build you, it doesn't belong. That's how you build mental strength. That's how you become unshakable. That's how you win back control. Number 10. Let go of needing everyone to agree with you, because that need, whether you admit it or not, is slowing you down. It's making your choices harder, your words softer, your actions smaller. You hold back because you want to be accepted. You overthink because you're afraid of disapproval. You filter your truth because you don't want to offend. But here's the truth. Not everyone is supposed to agree with you. Not everyone is meant to support you. And trying to get everyone on your side before you move will keep you stuck for the rest of your life. You've got to learn that disagreement isn't rejection. It's just a difference in perspective. And it's not your job to make every person in your life see what you see. You don't need a group vote to live your truth. You don't need validation to take a step forward. You need clarity. You need conviction. You need the ability to stand on your decisions even when they're misunderstood. That's what confidence is. Not being liked by everyone, but being solid enough in your own voice that other opinions don't shake you. The people who try to build their life around everyone's approval never find peace. They move based on other people's reactions. They change direction every time someone raises an eyebrow. They carry anxiety in every room they walk into because they've convinced themselves that being accepted is more important than being honest. And eventually, they don't even know who they are anymore. They've become a collection of what everyone else wanted them to be. Letting go of needing agreement isn't about being stubborn. It's about being free. It's about no longer needing to justify every move, every dream, every belief. It's about understanding that disagreement doesn't mean disrespect. And if someone's opinion can stop you from doing what's right for you, then you're living in their version of life, not yours. Think about how many times you've stopped yourself from doing something you cared about just because you feared what others might say. Think about the ideas you didn't share, the projects you didn't start, the changes you didn't make, all because you thought, what will they think of me? That thought is a cage. It might look polite, it might sound humble, but it's holding you back from your real potential. You don't have to be rude to be real. You don't have to be loud to be strong, but you do have to be honest. And sometimes honesty creates distance. Sometimes it creates friction. That's part of life. The people who matter will still stand with you even when they disagree. The ones who don't, well, they were never really standing with you anyway. They were standing with their idea of you. You've got to stop making your peace dependent on someone else's approval. It's too fragile. It's too unstable. One comment, one look, one disagreement, and suddenly you're questioning everything. That's not confidence. That's emotional dependence. And if you don't break that pattern, you'll spend your entire life adjusting to other people's preferences while abandoning your own truth. Start training your mind to be okay with being misunderstood. Be okay with silence after you speak your truth. Be okay with losing a few people along the way. That's the price of growth. Not everyone will be comfortable with the stronger version of you. Not everyone will clap for your success. Some will question your motives, some will gossip, some will leave. But that's not a problem. It's a filter. It shows you who's real and who's only around when you play small. Needing agreement will lead you to make weak decisions. You'll say yes when you mean no. You'll stay in places that drain you. You'll pretend to believe things you don't just to keep the peace. And each time you do, you chip away at your self-respect. You tell yourself what they think matters more than how I feel. But that's a lie, because at the end of the day, you live with your choices, not them. You wake up in your life, not theirs. So why give them the steering wheel? The truth is, people are going to judge you no matter what. You play it safe. They'll say you lack ambition. You take a risk. They'll say you're being irresponsible. You speak your mind. They'll say you're difficult. You stay quiet. They'll say you're weak. You can't win that game. So stop trying. The goal isn't to be approved by everyone. It's to be true to yourself even when approval doesn't follow. This mindset shift is not easy. It takes practice. It takes moments of silence after you say something bold. It takes standing still while others criticize what they don't understand. But over time, something shifts. You get stronger, not louder, stronger. You stop flinching at every reaction. You stop chasing external agreement. You start moving because it's right for you, not because it's convenient for them. And guess what? The people who respect you most won't be the ones who always agree with you. They'll be the ones who admire your clarity, your strength, your willingness to take a stand, even when it's not popular. Those are the people you build with. Those are the people who push you forward. Everyone else is just background noise. Letting go of needing agreement means trusting yourself more than you trust the crowd. It means listening to your own voice when the room goes quiet. It means having the self-discipline to say, this matters to me, and moving forward regardless of who claps. You're not here to fit every mold. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to live with integrity, to build a life that reflects your values, not just your fears. That takes guts. That takes repetition. But it's worth it. Because nothing feels better than knowing you chose your path, not because it was easy, but because it was real. So next time you feel that need for agreement rising up, pause. Ask yourself, do I actually believe this isn't right? Or am I just scared they won't agree? That question will tell you everything. Don't give that fear the final say. Let your decisions come from strength, not social pressure. You owe it to yourself to live without constantly looking over your shoulder. You owe it to your future to stop shaping your life around other people's reactions. And you owe it to your peace to stop needing everyone to nod before you speak. Let go of needing everyone to agree with you. That's the beginning of freedom. That's the beginning of self-respect. That's the beginning of you becoming who you were always supposed to be, without compromise, without apology, and without waiting for permission. If you've made it this far, it means you're serious about taking your confidence back. Remember, confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build by doing the hard things daily. Start showing up for yourself. Start saying what needs to be said. Stop apologizing for being real. These shifts won't be easy, but they will be worth it. The more you act with strength, the more your confidence grows. Don't wait for someone to fix it for you. This is your life. Stand tall, speak clearly, and from this point forward, never let anything kill your confidence again.